Today I'm here with Khulekani Msweli. Khulekani is our Waterford alum, and also he's currently serving as a member of the board of the school, which we call the Governing Council. Khulekani, how are you?
I'm good, Manqoba. Welcome to Khulekani.
All I can say is just wow. Taking us around the area, I'm so wowed. How are you able to do the work that you do? Like, how are you able to do all these things, like combined, the church, administration, the youth center? You've taken us through that side on sustainability. There's a food market, there's Jerome. I know there's something that we are opening a shop, right?
Yeah.
As Kenglers.
Yeah.
Just let's start with that, like time management, planning, all these things. I'm sure it must be a mission trying to do all what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Manqoba. It's definitely a mission, and it requires one to be a bit like a choir conductor, making sure that everyone has their own instruments and they can play their instruments, and all I do is to make sure the sound comes out beautifully. So which kind of goes to, I always say, maybe I'm the master of delegating tasks. I tend to have the vision maybe of what has to be done or what has to be implemented or created. And then I find myself lucky enough to have an incredible small team of people whom I work with. Whether it's for my business projects or the community work, there's always a small team of people who then carry out the core duties. Mine is really to offer the direction, really, and make sure that that direction is achieved in the most efficient and affordable way.
Let's start with the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
How many young people are you feeding there, like on a weekly basis?
Yeah,
and how does it come up together? Like who brings the onion, who brings the beans, who brings the rice? Like how does it work?
It truly is the help of an entire village to run the kitchen. So yes, on average it fluctuates. It depends every week between 60 to 80 children. They come to have a meal, and sometimes the numbers go far higher during school holidays or during times of disaster like we had during COVID. That was quite a trying time because we were having up to 200, not just children, but the community who were coming to have a meal from the food kitchen which we run. But it's a team effort because there are volunteers who cook, and we have partners like Save the Children who make sure that the bulk of the grain, like your rice, your maize meal, your beans and cooking oil, are delivered on a quarterly basis, like every third or fourth month. They bring us our bulk grain. So I suppose having partners like that make sure that we are able to do the work more efficiently without much stress. And then we have friends who tend to donate on a monthly basis to make sure that the kitchen actually has the food, and the people who assist with it also are remunerated.
And who are these friends? Are they anonymous or?
It's anonymous and it's family. So it's family and one or two other families who are friends to the family. Because yes, the kitchen is run from the point of view of our family foundation, which is the Khulekani OVC, which stands for Orphans and Vulnerable Children Outreach Foundation. So we run it from that kind of non-profit organization. And it was started by my parents, my mom and dad, who had seen a lot of the lack in the community and thought, well, they also grew up here, it would be great to give back, but how best to give back? They had started things informally, but thought, no, they have to formalize it, set up a foundation where if there's any extra they have, they put it in there, and then if any friends or anyone who resonates with what we're doing can also contribute through the foundation.
Okay. And so what else does it do? So was it found for the purpose of giving food to these children, and or what else does it do? Like,
There's so much which the Vuvulane OVC Outreach Foundation does. The core emphasis of it is around the children of Vuvulane and kind of looking at their general social well-being, so making sure at least they have access to a meal. So health and nutrition are very big on our agenda, and then access to education, and then the general issues which then come up as they grow up, become youths. How do we make sure they have skills, general skills of making a living? So it's a number of things, but also then we are currently looking at also living spaces, because we've realized in the community there's so many children who unfortunately their parents are living in homes which are not quite adequate, not only for their health but for their general upbringing. So, so we've had to embark on trying to find solutions to housing, affordable housing. So we've created a demonstration site of a sustainably built home, and how can it be, but also taking from a point of permaculture, that kind of full circle way of living. And it's been steps, it's trialing, because if you're in a community and part of a community, you have to allow for things to happen over a period of time. There's no quick solution, there's no quick fix to a lot of things. And that has been the approach we've had, to look at things from there's no quick fix.
And I saw the youth center there. So how does it connect to the kitchen and the work that you do? Like, what is it about?
Yeah, so even with setting up the Khulekani Msweli Youth Resource Center, it's a fairly new resource center. It's just over 2 years old. And even with that, there was the feeling within our family foundation that we need a space where young people can have access to resources. As much as we are in a farming town where a lot, especially some of the children of the farm workers, are really disenfranchised. Their parents can't afford some of the learning tools which young people might need. So access to the internet, access to laptops, access to a space, a safe, great space, access to books, access to, so many things which they can use to better themselves in life. So it came about with making sure that they have access to that. So it's really a space where we believe there shouldn't be a young person who is school going who can claim their learning is disenfranchised because maybe they are from a poor family or from a family which cannot afford the gadgets which are their learning tools.
Okay, so when these young people come here, so they find like, what by resources, what do you mean? Do you give them?
Yes, so by resources we mean access to laptops. So we work through partnership with the US Embassy in Eswatini. They were able to donate 14 laptops.
Wow. Okay.
And then also with that, it came in with also learning how to code. So some of the young people were part of a coding program. So these laptops are there for them to utilize if they need to do homeworks or need to just learn how to use it. And then other resources are access to the internet. So we've got a free open Wi-Fi
for everyone.
Everyone in the community.
Are you serious?
Can have access to it.
Wow.
So that, for quite a long time, access to the internet or having Wi-Fi has been seen as a luxury.
Sorry, just to come in. So when they come, do they need password? Like, it's just open to the community?
It's open to anyone.
It's free Wi-Fi.
There's no password, there's nothing. It's just free Wi-Fi to anyone who needs it. Because I think our belief within the foundation is that access to information should be a universal right. But there are barriers to access to information, such as not being able to afford the internet. So we had to make sure anyone in the community can have access to the internet where they can learn, research, or even use it for leisure. Because we are in an area where the realities are really tough. So leisure is also a big part of what we do.
Okay, and so how does the church come in? Because it's the
the church where we're currently even sat in the church.
Yeah.
The church in our community, and I think also in Eswatini at large, being a dominantly Christian country, within this aspect has become an anchor, I think, to the community. So it's not just a church where people's spiritual lives are uplifted, but for us it's also a meeting place. So our church is a multi-purpose space. So we have community meetings, we have youth programs. So when there are learnerships which are happening, usually people ask to use it. We also use it for learnerships. We use it for government meetings or whatever. If anyone is coming with a project, assistance, a mobile health facility, the church becomes the space which is big enough to host huge amounts of people. And so it's a multi-purpose hall.
Tell me more about the church. So who owns the church? Because I see that we're inside the church right now, and just behind it there's the youth center.
Yes.
So one, who owns it, how is it run? But two, is the youth center facility only for young people in the church, or
no,
it's a common thing?
Yeah, so with the church itself, they had realized when I was also younger, we congregated for church in a classroom at the Vuvulane Primary School. So every Sunday we would go into the classroom and it would become church. And they found that very, unprogressive, to think, here we are as adults. They too, my grandparents were using that primary school as their church. They too, as adults now, being my parents, were using that same classroom. And then here I am as well, now going into that classroom. So they thought there's something amiss here. We have to set up a church for the community to come and congregate in on Sundays. And that's how it kind of came about, from just that idea of saying, Vuvulane also needs just an independent church. So our church is not really affiliated to any other denomination. It's just a standalone church in Vuvulane, known as the Pendvuka Calvary Worship Center. And then through that, it's got its own pastor. It's got Pastor Matsenjwa who pastors it. So, but dominantly, it's a community church.
Pastor Matsenjwa from the community?
From the community.
Or he lives employed? Because we've seen other churches, they employ pastors.
No, he lives here in Vuvulane. So what tends to happen, which is an interesting aspect, you find some of our rural churches, not many pastors like to pastor or lead them, because there's usually not much money going around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to be cognizant of the fact that in order for us to be even in this room, you are finding it quite clean, there's electricity, there are bills involved. The people who work to make sure that it's clean, the electricity. But it's very tough where you find that even our pastors are not actually remunerated the way they should be. Because a number of our congregants, we don't earn much. So, yes, it's a simple church. Therefore, you find it's not many people unless they actually live here.
But it's nice. I think looking at it, and it takes me to my next question. So it was funded by the Msweli family.
Yes, in its initial stage, yes, but eventually. In terms of contributing, a lot of the community members and the people who were worshiping with us contributed to make sure it's...
And the youth center?
And the youth center, that's then...
It's funded. Who funded it?
So the youth center, it was by the Msweli family and also a friend of the foundation. So they also contributed, the Open Earth Foundation.
So the Msweli family is rich, mostly, isn't it?
No.
How is it doing all these things? There's an idea, then we do it, then we fund it.
I think it's being resourceful, where I don't necessarily believe, because it's a good question you're mentioning. Are you doing this because you're rich? And the answer is no. Because even the implementation of this church, I remember my dad when he started trying to build this church, there was someone who was actually American who said, "Why on earth are you doing this when you don't have the money to do it?" Okay. So my dad, his answer was, "Oh, you don't necessarily need money to do everything. You need a vision and an idea." Wow. And then have the ability to make sure people buy into the idea and understand what it's for. And then they'll be willing to give into the idea. Okay. So in most cases, it's a matter of sharing the idea with friends and people who are like-minded. And then everyone saying, we align to this idea and we would love to give towards it. So that's when you find a building like this is completed. It's completed through contribution from friends and family. So similar to the Youth Resource Center, yes, part of the resources were coming from the family, but some were coming from also the Open Earth Foundation, which is a foundation which is based in Belgium, who are friends of the family. So then it's also building a network of friends and family members and people who just believe in the vision which we have for developing Vuvulane, but developing Vuvulane collectively with the community and friends of the community.
Okay. And I think speaking about not necessarily having to have money to do something, I think that's the same mindset that you have as a person. I think because most of us ask ourselves, what is Khulekani doing in the community? I think you were you in the UK at some point in time? You were working there.
Yes,
What happened? Like, what drives you from moving from a first world country of glitz and glamour and come back to Eswatini? But even then in Eswatini, one will expect you to be in Babana. You are zooming even deeper into far-flung areas. You are in Vuvulane now.
Yes.
Why is that?
I think it's coming from a place of being rooted to family, I think, on my side, and also with this deep desire to see change from where I come from. Yes, I've had the opportunity to live in the UK, study a bit there, learn fashion design there, learn art there, travel a bit while there, see a lot of amazing, incredible countries around the world. But every time I was there or any other space I visit outside of Eswatini, I'm always there to learn and think, what can I bring back to my community, where I'm not of the school of believing someone else will develop where I come from. I'm of the school of believing I have to be that catalyst of that development. I have to be a part of it, especially if I want to direct it a certain way. I have to be there. I have to do it. It's tough. It's not for everyone. But with my creative background, I thought I'll be coming at a different angle, from a creative angle, and seeing from that, how can I contribute in the space of development, using my business as well, Jerem Paul, which is a design and lifestyle business, to bring about that change. And it so happened that that change is happening in Vuvulane because that's my hometown, that's where I grew up.
I want us to get into the design and your artistic background, but I just want to finish this one point. So now, you came back because you feel you need to take from the developed world or wherever you get exposed to, come back to develop the community. Where does that mindset come from? Is it because of your family background who instilled these values and what? Like, looking back, where would you?
That's a really great question, because I get asked that a lot.
Because with what you are doing, I will be in parliament now. Why would you do all these things like without like a political or business incentive even? You know?
No, I think it's two-pronged. It's being raised by a family which has been quite embedded in community work. It starts there, whereby I remember my granddad, there's always a joke where some of the elders of the community say, your granddad, mkhulu wako, He was quite a hard worker, but he was so selfless. I remember the family, my grandparents, they used to host people who were just coming into the community, whether it was visiting priests or community, what, they were like, oh, they should go Msweli. Okay. And then he also used to, same with my grandmother, they were just people, they didn't have much, but they were always giving. So I suppose it's also from that kind of upbringing of being in close proximity with people who have a heart to give. Then my parents, a similar thing, who then adopted that similar stance. And then also going to a school like Waterford, which is big even now on this aspect of community. How do you give back to community? How do you become a part of the community you are in a meaningful way? So I suppose from that upbringing, and then also from a high school, college mindset, where it's a school which is not just about your books, but about instilling a sense of cognizance to where you are. What are you doing where you are? How are you interacting with your community, with the environment, with so many things? So with those things kind of pulled together, it was only a matter of time before I only returned to Vuvuzela.
So at Waterford, what exactly did you get to do during your time? Like, in terms of, you are saying it exposes you to the community, not just books. Like things that you did that made you to like engage with the community. Would you recall some of the things that you did?
No, it's that at Waterford, besides anything, it's an incredible school. We have to start there. It's unique, it's incredible. And it's a school which really raises leaders. And I would love to believe that I'm kind of enacting that now from the roots and nourishment I got from Waterford. So I suppose at that time, those days, because I left Waterford in 2001, we had community service. And I was attached to, my community service was with Ward 8, so at the government hospital in Babane. There's a ward called Ward 8, which tends to be a ward where children who've been left by their mothers after birth grow up in that ward. So, and you know, every time I went to Ward 8, it hit me so much. You are with kids who are amazing, but their parents or their mom has decided to leave them at the hospital for one reason or another. And they are now growing up there with limited resources, with limited everything. But there we were as, you know, young, probably 15, 16-year-olds, saying, you know, part of our education is to give up some of our time to play with the kids, to make sure to also, end of year, would do a little party, make sure we've bought new clothes, we eat well, we take them for swimming at the Cuddle Puddle in Ezulwini.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was
From Babane Government
Hospital. We'd have day outs, excursions with the kids. Okay. And it was amazing to just see the smiles of, and the kids would look forward to our trip, and we'd know when maybe there was bad weather. The following week, the nurses would say, oh, the kids missed you. They were really looking forward to see you. So those things, you know, as a kid growing up, they are cemented in your consciousness. You might take them lightly, but they really stay with you and linger because they.
And maybe at the time you don't notice at the time when you are doing it, but as you grow, you think about them. Like
sometimes, why are we going there? But you then really understand its depth as you grow up. You then also understand the disparities, and the joy of being a student at Waterford was that it's a school made out of different backgrounds, from economic, from, you know, experiences, from so much. The diversity is immense, which makes a wholesome school. So also from that, you also understand that the disparities of the world we live in, the unfairness of it. And you cannot just leave the school and just say,
Be the same.
you can't, unless you
Is it you though, or have you seen other Waterford alums like doing something not really similar to, but I think of the same in their different fields and various ways?
Yeah,
after Waterford.
Yes, a few I've seen, but I'm never one to class it as something that's the same path.
Yeah.
They are probably doing it in so many different ways, which are different from mine. Mine tends to be quite visible because I'm in a small country and I'm quite active on social media. So you find my stories are far more visible. But I would love to believe they are also doing things which are incredible in the spaces they are in. They could be in their professional spaces, but how they approach problems. Because the other aspect which I think a Waterford education gives you is solving problems. You have to come out of there being able to solve global problems or global issues. So if you would look at it from a point of saying, oh, he just wanted to be an artist or a designer, what's that to the world? You know, it seems a bit frivolous. Oh, he just wanted to be a designer. But hey, designers and artists, you know, are the creative backbone of our societies, of creating things. I'm here, maybe if I didn't have my artistic background, maybe I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing the way I'm doing them. Definitely it was in the schooling system, especially at Waterford, because there was that option to do art as a subject, a high school exam subject. And I had chosen art as it, and having tutors who fully encouraged. My art teacher, Ramila, was always encouraging, you know, and then to have a social fabric which says, do whatever you want to be. My parents are from that school of saying, we'll never get in the way of what you want to do, because I think they grew to understand the power of someone doing what they really want to do. The person becomes the best of who they can possibly become, because they've chosen a path they are passionate about. So they were kind enough and open-minded enough to say, do whatever you want to do, we'll support it. We are here to bounce off ideas. We are here to ask hard-hitting questions. If you can find answers to them or are on the path of finding answers to them, we are here to support. And then having a school which is saying, we've got the resources to support in that space was fantastic. And then you kind of take that and say, how does this fit in with development? How does my career fit in with my country where I'm from, where I've seen there's a lot of lack? And it's lack which will not just come from government intervention. It's lack which will come with solutions from us as community members. Because I think, as we were having the conversation before, solutions are not necessarily something which the government has to come with. We as community members have to lead governments in the direction we wish for them to go. We have to identify the things which need to be developed and possibly find the solutions within our communities to say, we think the solution to this problem is this. And then we allow the government to join in the conversation to say, we think this is the role you can play as government in this, because this is your jurisdiction. And this is the role that we as community members will be playing towards this common development.
So is that what takes place here now? How does government come in actually? I was going to ask that. And other organizations, like you've talked about Save the Children in terms of the food, government, I would imagine other organizations, maybe like the Youth Council, because we have a youth center. How do they come in here?
So I'm one person who believes in not just having non-profits or NGOs running the show, you know, for lack of a better word, but those entities are there to just support. We need the government, especially on issues of service delivery, on issues where the taxpayer is making sure their taxes are going into clinics, into roads, into schools. So those areas are critical parts of the backbone of our communities, which need the government to play a major role in. So with the way I work, or we work, especially within the foundation, is to constantly be aligned, one, with where is the country hoping to get to. Let's start there, which in most cases it has ambitions of development for all. So if it's development for all, what role does the government then play in that? Yes, in making sure that all citizens are documented, who have to be documented the right way. Children are going to school because luckily we have free primary school education, so there shouldn't be children who are not in school. And making sure that when we go to the clinic, there's medication that we need. And then also working with its government partners to make sure if we need food subsidies like the soup kitchen we have, they are there, like your Save the Children's, like the World Food Program. So those synergies are there. And hence why recently we had the Deputy Prime Minister coming to this, sat in this very church we're sat in now.
Wow. To support, to give money.
To support
Okay.
in the sense of understanding the problems, because we've been having a lot of children who are not in primary school because they are undocumented.
Okay.
And also having community members who are adults who are undocumented, they don't have national IDs, which seems like a simple thing to do, but with the complexities of issues of poverty, issues of access to this, and the hierarchies of how our country is governed through its chieftaincies, you find certain members of our community never have access to certain services which the government has provided. So she had to step in as a Deputy Prime Minister within her role of social welfare to really firstly come and understand
the programs
and the problems which are here, because she had a fair understanding of what
Did
the
you call
issues were.
them, or she just did it on her own volition?
No, it was through partnerships also with 1 Billion Rising, where they were in the community through a program we were jointly doing, and also working with journalists. So journalists have been a big factor of amplifying our community stories onto national stories. So I suppose with that collective information, from hearing the stories of lack, of children being undocumented, and then her office being one which is directly related to social welfare, it then became apparent for her to come. So she then made the first fig leaf or olive branch to say, I would love to visit Vuvulane, and can Vuvulane OVC and its church be our host? And that was through working with the MP, Indvuna, and the traditional structures of our community to host her here, and then also take her on tours of seeing what we have been doing and what the government needs to do. So that intervention was good, because now a lot of the children who are undocumented are documented. The adults who are undocumented.
How many have been assisted through that?
Assisted, because when the Home Affairs Office came, the numbers were in the hundreds of undocumented collectively.
So this is just Vuvulane alone?
This
Because
is
I
just
would imagine
Vuvulane alone.
the intervention was just at Vuvulane. I would imagine,
Yes.
I'm sure at national level, they're talking of thousands undocumented.
Yes.
How
it's
do you
there.
think, working with the community, what do you think you can pick up as opportunities for the relevant authorities to come in and zoom in terms of documenting people? Because I think it also denies children their right to go to school.
I think it showed the lacking gaps in government, because such issues of being undocumented, this and that, we need more social workers on the ground, or their assistants really on the ground, working with us in the community to solve a lot of this, because it's only when you're on the ground you'll start picking up the gaps, because government and its structures, they have created the structures of access. You can go to Home Affairs, you can apply for this. There's the general policies of getting things done, but you find certain citizens are left behind due to their social lacks. So hence why we really need the social workers through the government to be having their own foot soldiers, getting in and out of homesteads, finding out the crux of things, and even better relationships with the healthcare centers, the rural clinics, because that's when you start seeing also some of the problems. The rural clinics will have the statistics of what diseases, what are we seeing happening? Because currently we are having a lot of teenage pregnancies, a lot. And it was good to have our, in Vuvulani, yes. And it was good to have our head nurse when the Deputy Prime Minister came here, highlighting that to the DPM, to saying we are having a huge, spike in teenage pregnancies ever since COVID happened.
Why do you think that?
It's multi-pronged. So we are seeing high levels of teenage pregnancies. It's one, lack, where a lot of young people are involved in relationships of financial transactions, where I'm starting to have a relationship with an older man because I'm hoping he will take care of my basic needs. And sometimes it's also not a relationship between an older man, it's also with just their fellow age mates, where even that sense of access to sexual reproductive programs is not enough. At school level and at community clinic level, it's just not enough. And then also the access to contraceptives is also not enough. Where we are saying, yes, we might say, oh, there are free condoms which are available at your nearest shop, this and that, but there are still little stigmas here and there.
Are those some of the areas where you come in as well? Do you have any sexual and reproductive health programs?
No, within our foundation we don't, but we do have the government agencies who pop in once in a while and also set up using our facilities as their camp base. But it's just not enough. It's really not enough, especially even in the high schools, because the pregnancies are happening within high school level. So we need those, even the contraceptives, and for parents to also acknowledge the fact that unfortunately their children are involved in sexual activity and accept it. But after accepting it, you then find the preventative measures to it. We've got HIV in the country, which means if it's unprotected, you are exposing yourself to possible contracting of HIV and other STD, sexually transmitted diseases, which could be there, or STIs, which might be there.
Okay. So, Khulekani, I want us to now, business-wise, how do you live? Because you do all these good things for the people in the community.
Yes.
Then now, how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah.
Because I know that you are into fashion and design. Has that now led to a profitable enterprise? You've got units. What do you do? Like, how do you?
Yeah. So, incredibly, yes, we do all these wonderful social aspects in the community. But on my side, business is something which is close to my heart because it piggybacks to the whole aspect of economic emancipation, where especially in our communities, we need economic emancipation and we need a sense of diverse economies in our communities. We need ways of making a living. There is no joy in handouts. There's no dignity in handouts, in whichever form they're coming from, whether from the government, whether from individuals, from non-profits, there's no dignity in that. So so on my side, my passion is in the arts, as I've mentioned, so I've created a business out of it, which is Jerome Paul Investments, and I run the fashion side of it, the art side, the product design, so homewares and things like that. I currently have a shop at Swazi Candles, which is a booming tourist area.
So it's running right now. Someone
It's
is
running as we
selling.
speak.
It's Jerome Paul.
Jerome Paul, yes.
Okay. What's behind the name? Jerome Paul?
So Jerome Paul it's a combination of 3 names actually. My middle name is Jeremiah. So Jeremiah, I was named by my grandfather. He, I suppose parents and grandparents have a way of wanting to live forever. So his name was also Jeremiah. So he named me Jeremiah
to keep it
to
going.
be Jeremiah the second, to continue after him. So a lot of people tend to say, yeah, I've taken on his traits. So I suppose he was blessing me with his hard-working traits because he was a hard worker and a good heart.
Okay.
So I'm Jeremiah the second, and from my grandfather. And then the name Paul is from my dad. His name was Paul. Yes, so unfortunately he passed away in 2021 due to COVID, unfortunately. So the business name, I've had Jerome Paul for 14 years now. So it's a business entity I registered in 2010. So it's been steadily getting along. So by combining these 2 names, Jeremiah and Paul, to create Jerome Paul, and I had deliberately chosen these 2 men, and thirdly me, this third man in the picture, because 1, they've been great role models in my life, and 2, because what I was interacting with and seeing a lot with friends and in general the social aspects I've been in, where I've seen a lot of men being painted in a bad light. Yes, with reasons, because a lot of men have been absent in their children's lives. Yet here were these 2 men, my grandfather and my father, who were very present in my life, and they did their role as dads, which was raising families and making sure they provide, loving their families, and being generally good leaders in the community. So I thought, incredible. And it also offers me an anchor. By having these names, it means I have to respect their legacy. And whatever I do, I have to always look back to them to say, would they do this?
I still, okay.
I still kind of adding to this thing, which these great, wonderful men did and contributed to the community? Am I adding value to the community? Am I still in line with their teachings? So it was just a way to anchor me. And not to mention, I've also had incredible female figures. So there's my mother, my grandmother, who played particular roles, and they are involved in another way in the business. So, but the name, yes, it's from that system of being anchored in family.
So before, I'm sure the Khulekani shop, you opened it quite recent, isn't it?
Yes.
Before that, how were you selling or doing the business?
Yes, so before that, because even the Swazi candle shop, it was opened in December, this past December, but before that, I've had shops before. So I had shops in Ezulwini, so 2 shops actually. One started with a shop, it was at Spane Hotel, which now is known as Spane Hotel. And then the other shop I'd opened at what was once Yebo Gallery space, when it was in Mandenga by the Guava Gallery. So I had a full shop there, selling the art, the fashion, the home products. So, and then I closed them when moving to Vuvulane. And then while in Vuvulane, it was just selling through custom-made thing. The business took on a different turn by fully doing a custom-made service.
You say you sold them while you were moving to Vuvulane?
Yes.
Where were you at the time?
So when running as much as Vuvulane was still home and my home base, but I was living in Ezulwini because they're closer to the business. And then,
Community work.
In Vuvulane, yes, the community work was going on in the peripheries.
Just always been there. Whatever you do, there's a community.
Yes, and just knowing that my parents are still here, they are doing things and whatnot.
Okay.
But then the mindset of saying, in order for the actual business to fully grow and become its own, the feeling was to really anchor it here in Vuvlane. So my studio then opened up here in Vuvlane. So that's why I was producing things, still selling, having an outlet through Yebo Art Gallery. So the artwork was still being sold in the city. But I had to regroup and make sure this is my base now.
Is it making money though, given that it is in Eswatini?
No.
That space?
No. It has its ups and downs like any business. There are times where through the commissioned, maybe especially the commissioned projects, which I tend to do or I'm asked to do, you find that kind of brings in a lot of the money. And then even selling some of the products locally and outside of the country, that also then brings in a bit of the money. Yes, but in small amounts. Yes. So you find it's not, I wouldn't say it's a highly profitable business. In most cases, we're running on a loss. But it's an idea I hold on to because it's far bigger than what is happening now. Hence why we're currently on this mega crowdfunding for Jerome Paul to build, because here in Vuvlane, we ended up setting what is now known as the Vuvlane Food Market.
I was getting there, actually. The Vuvlane Food Market is separate from
Jerome Paul.
That's a business.
It's a business,
For
yes.
profit making.
For profit,
okay.
yes.
It's separate from the work of the NGO, the foundation, and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
But it has, so
It's
the
nice, by
Vuvlane
the
Food
way.
Market is only an extension because, as mentioned, the Jerome Paul is a lifestyle business. So one which offers you art, design, fashion, furniture products, and the cafe restaurant, which is known as the Vuvlane Food Market. So it has social leanings because all of these entities, hence why coming back to Vuvlane, setting it up by the side of the road in Vuvlane was also a way of saying, how can we create this very slightly different thing, slightly artistic thing in this community, which is just a sugarcane farming community, but come up with this creative thing. It only made sense to me because, yes, we are a farming town, but now this farming town can actually grow food. And this food can supply this cafe restaurant. But how can I then expand this and make it bigger than what I think it is? By making sure that the farmers that are here start learning how to grow organically or use permaculture methods, which we were able to then do, and get about 10 young farmers to learn permaculture, which will then supply the food market. So then by now establishing
the food there is produced organically and supplied to the Vuvlane food.
The ambition is that.
Okay.
The
Or the long-term
ambition is
goal.
that.
Okay.
The long-term goal is to make sure that everything is produced locally, it's organic, it's done from permaculture principles, but we had to put in the spade work by making sure that the local farmers know about organic farming, because we're in a sugar industry, which is all about chemicals, harsh chemicals of pesticides and things like that. And now then to expand the Vuvlane Food Market, which is still under Jerome Paul, into a real lifestyle destination. Okay. So to make sure there's a space which you can see the artworks I create, the artworks created by other artists, the design in furniture which I design, which you can buy, which at the moment you are only seeing a small part of in the shop, which is at Swazi Candies.
Okay. So
it's
now
only
you'll be a bigger thing.
So now you'll see the full Jerome Paul. In business terms, maybe the Jerome Paul HQ. Its flagship shop will be here in Vuvlane, hence why we are on this big drive of crowdfunding to build the Jerome Paul Lifestyle Center. Because that will be a further way of economic.
So what else will be there? So it will be you'll be selling the furniture, the artwork, and then have the restaurant as well?
Yes.
That's running even now?
Yes, that's running even now. So yes, it's the art gallery, it's the fashion and furniture shop, it's the restaurant, and then also the performance space, because we'll be having like a semi-amphitheater where we've got a lot of young people in Vuvlane who are great dancers, performers. So we need an outlet where they can come and showcase their talent, but also be paid to showcase and entertain. So we are hoping it's a lively spot where music performances come to happen, but that money is generated back to the community by making sure that the young people who are there to perform actually get paid. And then the designers, whom I think will also start mushrooming, whom we've started
So it will
training
be
young people.
it will be run by people from the community. You'll employ people from the community.
So the whole ethos is also to make sure that it provides employment for the community.
What a community.
We are a part of community.
Well, if I were to take you now to maybe America and lock you up there, you'll be stressed.
I'd be extremely stressed.
Okay, now I saw that most of the buildings are eco-friendly,
Yes.
and also you build them in a sustainable manner. What influences that? Like, why do you do that?
Yeah.
And even the Jerem Poor, I think I saw the design, I saw the crowdfunding online, I saw it's also eco-friendly.
Yes.
Like, what's behind that?
It's the realities of life. In a simple sentence, it's the reality of the times we're living in. Firstly, from my philosophy, it's coming from the element that as humans living on this planet, we are a part of it. We are not, the authority over it. We are a part of it. So if we are a part of the planet, we have to be responsible in how we live in harmony with our other neighbors, who are the plants, the soils, the birds, the animals. We are part of this whole ecosystem, and we have to tread carefully within it and be in harmony with it. So it's been consciously been my way of life to say anything and everything I do, the first question is it humanity-centered? Is it in harmony with nature? If it's not humanity-centered, nor in harmony with nature, I shouldn't do it. Why am I doing it? And from those kind of first answering that question, it then leads to when there's a structure going up, how will it be in harmony with nature? How is it giving back to nature than taking from it? So anything we develop or make has to give more than it takes. So coming from that type of culture and thinking, yes, even the new lifestyle center which we're crowdfunding for will be done in an ecologically sustainable way using landfill rubble. So we have a landfill here in Vuvlane which has all sorts of construction waste being thrown at it. So we'll be trying to reclaim that landfill so that it returns to its pristine nature, and we'll try to rehabilitate it when we take away from it. So all the concrete rubble will be used to build the structural walls, and then all the tires which are thrown there will be used to create rubber roofing.
I saw one that was at an experiment. I saw
the disability toilet.
Yeah, I saw the tires already used to construct the roofing.
Yeah, we're quite chuffed with ourselves, the fact that we've been able to complete a new building which has been made out of the landfill site. So the roofing was our first experiment with using used tires to create roofing tiles out of it, and it's been a successful experiment, and especially it came at the right time when we were having heavy rains and there were hailstorms before, so it really tested us. Is it a good thing we've created? Is it a good innovation? And it has really ticked the box, because rubber is a great insulator. It will be able to weatherproof when there are hailstorms. As the weather patterns are changing, we are seeing more hailstorms. And also with the sound, it will be great for acoustics, because it will be an arts center as well. So we'll be having music performances, so we need a space with great acoustics. So it's ticking all our boxes, and nature will be also smiling at us.
Wow, this is great. I mean, it's in line with at Waterford. We're big on that, I think from inception. And also just now we are moving towards the solar farm project, where we want to go off the national grid and then produce clean energy and, you know, the dams and everything like that, as you know. Like, how was it during your time in terms of environmental sustainability initiatives and, yeah?
No, Waterford has always been strong in issues of ecological wellness of not only the school but the planet. We've had that as a part of our basic education, and seeing the Waterford Park, how it's set up, it has always had those ambitions of self-sustenance, and it's always instilled. I mean, as a student there, you're told to recycle, separate this, that. So it's been there for many years. It's not a fad, because people tend to think, oh, everyone is jumping on this climate change wagon. No, it's something which has been there. And to see it now fully saying we need a solar farm so that we're fully off the grid and we are running on clean energy is important, not only for the institution, but for the planet and for the neighboring communities, because from what I know, it won't be just clean energy for the campus, but for its neighbors as well, because we believe, I'll definitely use the we, because I'm still a part of Waterford through its
Forever.
being a governing council member as well.
Once a Waterfordian, always a Waterfordian. Whether you're a former parent or former staff or
Yes.
former students.
So
Okay.
for me, we are doing an incredible thing for the institution, for the planet, for the community of Waterford, by taking on this route
And
of clean energy.
we are challenging the community. By community, I mean students, parents, Alum, our friends, to support this initiative. You know, one panel, I think, is about 3,000 in Malangeni. I didn't know this, that you can just contribute. But, you know, when we say we're fundraising for 50 million, it's like, yet you can just buy small, you can just
Small
chunks, yeah, leading to bigger things. But Khulekani, now I want us towards the end, impact. Are you seeing impact? Are you seeing change in an impactful way in terms of what you do? You bring students here to come, use your facilities, internet, laptops. There's light. There's now that resource center there. They are able to sit down, do whatever. They can even do study groups. They can do a lot. They come to church, which is a structure as well, not just for spiritual life, but also for other things, as we have said. They also, children eat every week. You're feeding them. You're doing a lot. Are you seeing impact? Or maybe, are you seeing impact in terms of even just, maybe, just generally, but also I would be interested to know if some of these children who have been through this system grow up to do something or,
So how I define maybe impact probably is the ability to hold and instill hope. If what we do is able to restore hope for the community of Vuvulani, yes, there's an impact. Because from what I've seen in the years, I'd say in the past 14 or so years that I've returned from studies and fully living here, the journey has been tough but beautiful. To see people taking pride now saying, yes, I'm actually from Vuvulani. Why are they saying that? They've seen the projects we've been doing and seeing the ability of being either hired as employees and also knowing that if we're hitting hard times, we are not alone. There's space, there's a foundation which is with us in this journey. There's a foundation and there are people maybe who are like Khulekani who will always raise a voice. Great. And then when you start seeing maybe it's the young people you've trained, having their own studio, starting to sell, calling you to say, oh, you know what? Those earrings that I've made, those necklaces are now kind of offering me the basics.
Oh, wow.
Before I was
Like
staying at home.
making them by themselves?
Making them by
Wow.
themselves.
Wow.
Before, I was a burden to my parents. I couldn't even buy myself soap to bath. But now I know I'm making something basic.
Doing something for
There's something I'm making. It's not something which is making me rich, but I'm able to just get basic life. And I'm holding on to hope. Because at this point, we just need to hold on to hope. Because a lot of the issues start when we have lost hope. Because we feel our communities have been neglected. There's no one who's be a voice of advocacy in your community. So maybe with those few things, maybe yes, there is impact, but you'd only hear it from the people themselves. At times it's not seeing it visibly with your eye, but it's seeing it from the attitude, from that sense of slight pride when you speak of Vuvulane again. Because in the past, it was so heavy, where you are not seeing the beginning and the end of where the community is going. But to kind of say, maybe there is a Khulekani or someone like him or more of us who are returning to our communities with all of our worldly exposures and privileges, saying we are here to build with the community. Someone else who has had that privilege and exposure hopefully is now also saying, oh, I want to do that in my community. I want to go back and give back and be a part of growing it.
Oh, that was so mouthful. That was because I think we have a very interesting way of defining impact. Because most of us think, of bigger things, or when people, I think like the word hope. Mm-hmm. Because once people lose hope, like everything else just falls off.
It definitely does.
And Khulekani, I think people don't know about the Vuvulane place. Mm-hmm. How did it come about? Like, I see that there are some what looks like informal settlements, then there's sugar cane farms this side. Like, how is this community organized? Like, what is it? Is it a township? Is it a rural area? What is it? Is it a farm? What is it? Yeah.
So Vuvulane is classed as a town. So it's a sugarcane farming town, which was set up by the Commonwealth Development Corporation, known as CDC, which was a British entity back in the mid-50s when they were setting up the sugarcane mills, the Mhlume Sugar Mill. And through their sugarcane milling activities, they saw it good or entrusting to teach eMaswati how to grow sugarcane. So that's how my grandparents came here. So I'm third generation. So they were taught how to grow sugarcane. So each farmer was given small farm holding, 3 to 5 hectares, to grow sugarcane, which they then sell to the mill. And then each farmer lives on his or her plot. And then there are 5 areas in Vuvulane. And then within these areas, there's also a small cluster of villages which were set up as the labor quarters. So all the farm workers would have their housing in those village clusters in all the 5 areas. So the area we are currently sat in is known as Mkitsa Ngunu, but its short name is Mkitsa. And through, unfortunately, as the years went by, you found in the areas which were marketed when the town was being planned as the farm workers areas, it hasn't been developed much, because you'd find that the farm owners who should be responsible for where their laborers live or the farm workers live have not been earning enough to actually develop that space, and some of the farmers were not utilizing some of the extra farm labor because they were doing all the work themselves with their children. So the areas have been left quite undeveloped because of those reasons. But of course, because children are being born there every day, we have a collective responsibility as farmers and community members to find solutions to improve that. And hence why we started the Vuvulane low-cost eco-housing demonstration site in hope that those type of houses can start being implemented everywhere. So yeah, so up to now, it is a fully fledged town, and we are smallhold farmers here. And yeah, and we hope it continues being a farming town for many years to come.
Oh, okay, now I understand. For someone willing to help in whatever way, you are doing crowdfunding, you have got friends of friends who are helping, who are anonymous.
Yeah.
How do they reach? How do they find you?
Yes, fairly simple. We've got a website, which is www.vovcof.org, O-R-G, which is vovcof.org. That has all the information about our nonprofit or our foundation. And then there are donation channels through it. And then within the work I do in my business and this crowdfunding, you simply go to jerempaul.com, which is JEREMPAUL.com. And all information is there, even about the crowdfunding and everything. So links are all in there. Yeah.
Last.
Or you can come and visit us directly to see what.
Oh, just to see. I hope to taste the Vuvulane food market food.
Yeah.
Waterford education. In one word, how would you define it?
Incredible.
It was a pleasure to have you.
It's been a pleasure.